Welcome and thank you all for being here. Also, thanks Adobe for allowing to be here, sharing what design and in our case, motion design means and how it lives in many different formats. My name is Marti Romances and I'm the creative director and co-founder of Territory Studio. Territory Studio started 10 years ago. It was a small studio in London, and today we can call ourselves a global company with over 120 employees all across different countries with facilities in London, New York, and San Francisco. Motion graphics, like graphic design, exist in many different areas, and one of the ones that we are very well known for is the TV and film industry. 10 years ago, with our very first film, we worked on Prometheus with Ridley Scott. We actually realized that there was a need for motion graphics in that industry, and not necessarily to create title sequences or other graphics with 2D and 3D, but for those same tools to cover certain narratives in a graphical way, or help set designers and directors building those fantastical worlds by designing all of the elements that contributed to that magic. As you can see here, we work in many different types of films, and each one of has its own style, its own graphical needs. And I would like to show you a little bit later what that means with some examples. But what I wanted to start with is showing you where do we apply motion graphics as a company, in which different industries and sectors. Another one here is games, and while the film industry allowed us to grow and get known, I want to show you today how motion graphics also applies to video games. Territory has been able to grow and expand our vision not only with film but with game projects. Most of us at the office are gamers by heart, and some come with lots of experience in the gaming industry. We see how with common denominator, motion graphics can be used in those type of projects. From front-end designs on the left, in-game heads-up display and interface elements for the players to interact and navigate through the game experience in the center, and on the right, cinematic cuts that help us building narratives and immerse those players into the game storytelling and world building of these video games. Another one that I wanted to highlight is digital platforms. So we also find ourselves applying motion design to functional digital applications such as wearables, mobile apps, financial tech, softwares, most recently augmented and virtual reality applications as well. And when it comes to functional designs like those, we're not only making sure they look and move good, but those aspects help create a great user experience. And the attention to detail and behavior understanding are key features to products like this. Nowadays, the audience is very demanding, and they demand certain quality of any digital platform that they interact with on their everyday lives. Another of those here you can see is the automotive. Is one of the biggest sectors within digital products that we work on. Is transportation, not only automotive, transportation, that means aviation and more. If we were already involved designing interface for certain automotive clients before, now with the new EV and AV emerging opportunities and the needs for visualizing new technologies we haven't seen before, we find ourselves solving more user experience and UI paradigms for a variety of clients, OEMs and brands. And that goes from startups to bigger groups in the automotive sector. The use of real-time graphics actually, and better and faster processing and graphics within these cars is allowing creatives like us to thrive without the friction of certain developments and pipelines of the past, which was a bit of a always an issue to see how our concepts and our designs for a car were being Frankenstein because certain of our ideas were not possible at a time, because again the processing power, the graphical power wasn't quite there yet. The other one that I want to touch here is especially because it has a connection with real-time graphics, that these allow us to dip our toes into experiential designs for a variety of events, large format visuals like what you see here, live shows, immersive experiences that need to be crafted with different purposes. And whenever we are stitching footage for a 360 experience, or recreating these 360 experiences from scratch, motion graphics are still the pillar and the foundation for those virtual experiences that we create. The last but not least, finally, probably one that you all expected to be in this list of different uses for motion graphics is the commercial wall, the brand and product videos, from the video explainer needing to cover certain product characteristics, or TV commercial announcing new features, or just a brand showcase. The digital platforms and the social media multiplied brand marketing collateral needs quite a lot, and we see motion graphics being the better answer sometimes, rather than just the editorial live action videos that we're used to, not only for its versatility and variety of styles that you can achieve, but also because it's a more accessible solution for many. Not all of us have a photo shoot or a studio to go and shoot, or these expensive cameras, but we can get a laptop, download some softwares, and create a lot of graphics. So continuing here, I wanted to show you how at Territory we see ourselves in the middle of these two groups that complement each other. And on one side, we have the fantastical worlds that we need to create for films and games, which allow us to imagine how things will look in another galaxy, technologies invented for superheroes, whatever the next script brings, really. It's a playground that pushes our periphery of vision to the next level every single time, and keeps forcing us to flex our creative muscles with every project. It's visual speculation at its best, because we can do whatever the director is imagining, whatever we want. On the other side, we have those functional products and those experiences that we create with a specific purpose. They need to cover practical aspects. Some of them need to be safe enough to not put a human at risk, a human's life at risk, like the cars. And we believe that without one or the other group, we will lose our identity, and we will not be Territory, because from constantly imagining what's possible and speculating over what technology could do, we usually find ideas that can disrupt those real products. And on the other side, being so close to these latest innovations with the new technologies and products allow us to be more accurate when we are speculating about what the future could bring for these fantastical worlds, and help create these films and games. And the next slide here is we can say that Territory is all about design, story, and technology. And I like to see it from different angles. I think they all interconnect with one another. We use technology to build those worlds and tell those stories through design, but we also create stories to design new technologies. And this is very relevant to what I was saying before about how these real products and these stories are connected with that common denominator, which is the design, and in this case, motion design. I would like to dive a bit deeper in some of the examples from sectors that I mentioned. One of them is the TV and film industry, and for everyone to understand what is the type of work we do, what better than playing this reel for you.
What do you want, Joe?
I want to ask you some questions.
Target is Brad Davis. Initiating strike.
Initiating what now?
Let the hunt for Halliday's Easter egg begin.
That went well.
Right. So, one of our favorite clients over these years has been Marvel Studios. We work with them in many films, creating graphics for their characters and different environments, different films, as you can see here. Each one has its own story. Each one has its own style and style guideline. Because after all, what we're creating is new operating systems every time that we design for a film set. And you can see that for them to be credible, we need to follow certain rules. We can see how this has a color palette that's very distinct to that specific set, and this means that we need to apply new rules with color, typography, and line work. And I want to talk a little bit about that today. These graphics play on set, as you can see here, in their fantastical ships and laboratories, allowing the talent to engage with the story in a more realistic way than just a single green screen without knowing what's going on there. Some of those are interactive and require the talent to touch them, and that gives certain lighting bouncing towards the skin, eyes reflection, environmental elements that could be tricky to fake in post-production, and especially for directors of photography. They love how much depth they can get when our graphics are moving on the background and we can see them through the lens. You will be surprised, and I will be playing these here while we talk about it. You'll be surprised how many tricks we use to make those credible. The design doesn't end with the graphics, continues when deciding alongside with the art department and the hardware teams how to hide those screens so they don't look like the regular devices that we used to see in our own normal life. So you can see here how certain shapes were defining those styles and those graphics in order to match the 3D printed cases that we were having on set. And you can see that you can see where they go. You can see now this and this shot where that was used. And also I'm gonna show you these ones that were on the doors. Those are also iPhones, right? With a 3D printed case that makes them look like three different screens. Some of you will be surprised and to know that to create all of those graphics, we use the same accessible packages everyone with a laptop or desktop computer has these days. We use Adobe Illustrator, and then to animate those compositions, we use After Effects. For example, this Iron Man screen. In there, we also composite in After Effects different 3D passes that we rendered previously. Because sometimes we don't have the luxury of time, meaning that we cannot wait for a complete 3D render with all the different materials and what comes with it. That is why we have all of the separate passes and we render them separately, allowing us to change different colors and highlight different areas when we need to. A very successful use of our graphic language when we have to feature 3D elements in a screen is the placement of those 3D elements in the 3D space. Like what we can see here, which is these elements from that specific character library that we created, placed in the same perspective that we're getting from the 3D software. After Effects allowing also us to have all of the 3D data imported for a precise integration. And when we look at all of them as a whole, this is almost like the DNA for this operating system that we create, making it more plausible. Here, let me show you how you can see how these UI libraries look for two different characters, for example, after a few screens have been designed. We need to design for different characters using different colors, different fonts, and different overall styles. Even different technologies are used in those. We can see here how what we did for Dr. Banner and Dr. Cho, visualizing 3D printing tissues, cell regeneration, and other disruptive technologies that you will expect from these films from the Avengers. And we treat cars and other digital products the same way, to be honest. Each one needs its own identity. The nice thing about this is when you zoom out, you can get to identify how important it is to give different characters that we will have in the same film different graphical identities. So even if the characters are not on set, you can see who's working with who. I also like to show you here very quickly how some of those different layers that we designed come all together. And each one of these properties and animations exists in each one of those layers. For a film or TV show, sometimes we have to create over 100, sometimes 400 elements like those. Some of them they are used as visual effects overlays, other in post-production requests once a film has been shot. Nowadays, we even see full circle as some of those assets, how they also end up in theme parks, video games, and other marketing collateral. For you to have an understanding where some of those graphics start, we usually receive something like this, a concept or drawing of the model from the art department or what they are creating. And those include all of the information from screen and panels that they want to see, so we can get to know which parts of those screens are going to be seen, so we can design following those layouts. Before we start designing, we need to align with the directors and production designers with what each screen is going to be featuring, the style of the graphics, duration, and other variables. And then you can see here that we create those graphics, we place them in the blueprints to make sure that they are all in the right place and position. We animate them all for different scenes and screens. And then this is how it looks at the end of the process. This is the Queen Jet for the Avengers ship that we did for Age of Ultron. And another good example here is Prometheus. It's a great example of console design and a production design altogether. This was for Ridley Scott, similar process. We use sketch design. We even print that physically sometimes to get awareness of where they are placed. And then this one added the extra elements that allow for plexiglass projections using polarized films to host some of those elements in the transparent screens. You can see here how it's important and what we were discussing before about the outside connection with the graphics. And this is very important. Another one that is very, to us it's a relevant project, as I said before, because most of the motion graphics are there to cover certain narratives. They're not just there to be like in the background. And that's what we did for The Martian, another great project we had the pleasure to work with Sir Ridley Scott. And to begin with, our challenge was to create a credible version of NASA a few years ahead, because he wanted to be more like relevant, like a little bit of a potential future ahead. And when you look at NASA systems, you realize that those are made to be functional for those who have been trained like for years and years to understand these little numbers and data. Our challenge then is to design these same widgets in a way that the broader audience and the cinema could understand what's going on. We pretty much organized the chaos and applied user experience and user design knowledge on top of it. This is, as you can see here, this is allowing us to be very direct with the messaging needed for certain scenes. We use color, highlights, and different hierarchies to communicate certain events. Sometimes we even find opportunities on how quickly we can communicate a narrative within seconds to an entire audience, instead of spending the time and money that will take for two actors and actresses to be discussing what's going on in a sequence. I want to quickly show how motion graphics can also help build those fantastical worlds with elements that are necessary systems or interfaces. And here, Blade Runner, you can see how all of our moving graphics were placed around the streets to make those spaces more authentic to the director vision. And every single detail counts. Sometimes we need to create an immense amount of fake brands and advertising in order to capture the director vision. And in the same world building, motion graphics elements played a critical role when designing for Ghost in the Shell for the new Tokyo city. Once again, we see how those films allow us to already speculate on the future of augmented reality experiences, even the future of advertising in this case, and other types of new technologies that could be hitting us in real life very soon. So to end up with the films and all of these fantastical worlds, those technologies and functional products that we design sometimes follow the same creative process, and in many cases are infused by the way of approaching film graphics. This is the case for the wearables brand Huami, where the brief was clear: design interfaces for a watch in the same way that we could design an interface for the Avengers. So you can see here our designs. We saw an opportunity to break the mold that we have continuously seen in many wearable brands. The same design, the same icons, the same animations. No challenge, no chance for a unique design, which is what we thought people liking watches. Options to choose from, designs from your favorite designers. So you can see here how it looked like, and it was a very special one. The process included thinking about the functions each watch face will have and how they will work with the system. We actually worked with the engineers to make sure that our vision was translated to the final product, both the designs and the animations. And I have to say, it was a great experience to be able to wear your own designs. It was a very, very special feeling, but a special case in this one, because we've never at that point worked for a product, so we can see how motion graphics were applied directly to a product that we were designing. Another digital product that we have done most recently is the UI design for digital platform in the Cadillac, the Lyric, which is a car coming into markets in 2022. And projects like these require an immense amount of iterations and an immense amount and attention to the user experience design. And GM trusted us with the opportunity to reimagine this in-car experience with our motion graphics experience. As I was saying before, the EV and AV market continues to disrupt the automotive space. As new technologies become available, there are more needs for visualizations that we never had to design for. Autonomous systems, battery, range, digital drive modes, and more. The real estate of those screens, as you can see, keeps growing, making these digital platforms as important as the interior or the exterior designs of the vehicles. And our experience in films and games, rooted in motion graphics and user experience, is now meeting a new frontier where we are able to change people's lives with these experiences that we'll be using every day when they drive their cars. I believe that we don't have time for more. I'll have to thank everyone for follow all these up until the end. Please make sure to contact us with any follow-up questions in Hopin. I will be answering all of the questions later on. I would love to hear your feedback. And also please make sure that you visit our website and explore some of the work we have in there, and follow us in social media with those handles you can see here. Again, thanks again, Adobe, for inviting me, and I hope that you all have a great rest of the show. Thank you.